I'm Melissa.
And I'm Lee, and we are busy mums, company founders, and all-round early learning nerds. Welcome to our podcast, Growing Little Humans.
Kids aren't born with a user manual, so each week we'll try and cover many topics that you guys encounter and worry about each and every day while you're raising your little humans.
Today, we are thrilled to be joined by Matt O'Bryan and Ben Bolger, who are the co-founders of Squirrel Education. Matt O'Bryan has 22 years of experience in education, working in 3 countries and in a diverse range of curricula. His leadership roles have included head of subject and assistant principal, and he has successfully launched 3 businesses, 1 in Australia and 2 in the UAE. Ben is a certified financial planner, chartered wealth manager, and holds an executive MBA with over a decade of experience in wealth management. He has seen firsthand the impact that financial literacy can have on people's lives, which has fueled his passion for transforming early financial education and helping children build healthy money habits for life. Hi, Ben and Matt. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having us. It's a real pleasure to be here.
So today we're here to talk about financial literacy, and I think I've heard that, Matt, you came up with the idea initially. How did you come up with the idea of Squirrel Education?
So I've been a teacher for quite a while, and when you first move into a classroom or into a school, behaviour management is one of the biggest things. So we're trying to look for those ways of engaging students in the classroom, but also something a little bit different. My first placement in the UAE was in the Emirate of Fujairah. And I had another colleague, a Year 5 colleague with me from New Zealand that wanted to run a manual banking program. And we got together, we discussed it all, and we started to set it up. A little bit of work at the start, setting it up, getting all the money printed, and kids were bringing in wallets, and we had fake credit cards and things like that. We set up a banking day where kids would bank their money. So the way it worked was we rewarded them with money for positive behaviour, good work, and we sanctioned them as well for not completing homework or not following school rules. Worked really, really well. I think by the end of the term, the first term that we did it, students had banked a fair bit of money. Some students were in the negative, but the good thing was those students that were in the negative, when we came to the day where they got to spend their money, so we got a whole heap of stuff in from the $2 shop, the 5 dirham shop, and they could buy this kind of stuff. They were disappointed that they really didn't have any money. Which showed that it actually worked. They were, towards the end of the term, they were really trying hard to get back on track. I had 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl, that were our top money earners. And just flippantly, I said, they were winding it down, and I said to them, I'm offering my guitar up for sale. And it's going to cost you, I think I put a price tag of $10,000 on it. The highest money earners had $11,000, $12,000. Now, this guitar, as I said flippantly, this guitar was a decent guitar that I liked. They absolutely loved it. Took a lot of deliberation in the class, the kids yelling at them, buy it, buy it, buy it. But not one of these kids actually bought the guitar. And as you do as a teacher, you want to find out why. So I brought them together at the end and asked them why. And they all said, I want to be the highest money earner at the end of this. So they could have got a guitar for absolute free, but they didn't go for it, which showed me that the idea of instilling financial literacy in them did show importance. And they had a ball as well. I saw an increase in homework delivery. I saw an increase in behaviour within the classroom as well. So all in all, it was a well worth program.
Amazing.
Thank you so much. That's such an inspiration. I was just sitting here thinking, I wish you would be my teacher. I didn't have any of those amazing experiences when I was at school. So we've talked a bit about financial literacy and why it's important for children to be exposed to financial literacy. You've given a really, really good example. Is there anything else you'd like to add about that, Ben, about financial literacy?
And Ben, can you just define for us what is financial literacy?
Well, I think that's a really important point. Great question, because financial literacy and financial education are very different, okay? So financial education is about knowledge consumption. It's about understanding the concepts and the terms around financial management. Financial literacy is how do we apply that, right? And how do we take that into the real world? How do we make informed decisions when we need to? And that was one of the biggest reasons when I first heard this story. Me and Matt were sat in a coffee shop in Abu Dhabi, and he's telling me this story, and sort of blew my mind a little bit, because I come from a completely different background. I'm a chartered financial planner, chartered wealth manager. I've been working with clients for the last decade, and what I've noticed is that what separates people who are good with money and potentially separates people that struggle with it is so much more to do with habits and behaviours than it necessarily is to do with just knowing what to do. I can tell anyone what to do, but whether they're going to then apply that is completely up to them.
And stick with it. Yeah.
And stick with it. So what attracted me to what Matt was doing in the classroom was that initial sort of understanding that he's creating an environment where children are actually practicing what they need to do. But then also those children showed in a small space of time that sort of delaying of instant gratification. So I was like, cool, we're onto, there's something here. Like how do and so then we had a look and we said, like, what else is available out there in the market? And there's not enough financial literacy education out there, full stop. But the stuff that was out there always seemed to revolve around just that knowledge consumption, like banks going in and delivering half a day's worth of teaching or lesson plans or videos or blog articles. That's not then going to translate into those good financial habits. So everything that we're doing at Squirrel is really, and I encourage and when I talk to parents, is about giving children the opportunity to practice what they're going to do, so that when they're out on their own, they instinctively have got that experience. So they're like, I can make those decisions at the critical times because I know what to do.
And it really blows my mind, Matt, you know, as a teacher, why do you think there isn't more financial literacy being taught in schools, like in general? I mean, my children were never exposed to anything to do with financial literacy, and considering that, you know, every day of your life you're going to be reading and writing, every day of your life you're going to have to deal with your personal finances. You know, as an adult, you're going to have to know about mortgages and interest rates and, you know, and saving habits like we're talking about. So, you know, why is there such a gap and no appears to, you know, until now, be no financial literacy being taught in school as a life skill?
Personally, I think our education system is quite archaic. It dates back to that idea of where teaching kids in regards to that manufacturing, that production line kind of teaching, where we just fill them up with information and send them on their way. Now, financial literacy is a life skill, and even though it's starting to change now, life skills, as you know, weren't really taught in school. Just wasn't seen. It didn't have that value on it that something like English and maths is. And you made a perfect point just before. And this is something that I say to kids often when we're talking about money. Every morning you wake up, money is involved. Everything that happens in your life, money is involved. You step out of bed onto the floor, you're either paying rent or you're paying mortgage for that house. You put clothes on, you've paid for them. You're brushing your teeth. That toothpaste costs something. It is the biggest part life skill that we just don't teach. Now, the reason why I don't think it's in the classroom at the moment, and we are getting there, the good thing is, it might be just that Ben and I are in this space, so we're seeing change starting to happen. But the fact of the matter is, and that's why Squirrel was quite important, we had two things to solve. The first one was to not encroach on an already full curriculum, because there's not a principal out there. And I've been an assistant principal before, and I know people have come to me saying, can you put this program in? And even if I thought it was a good idea, the fact of the matter is we don't have time or space in the curriculum to actually teach it. So space or time in the curriculum is one thing, but then you've got to have people that teach it. So you either have to upskill your teachers, and you girls might have noticed this, but in the staff rooms that I've been in, a lot of the conversation is either around diet or money. So that shows me that people don't have a lot of a skill set in that side of things. They're talking about money. They're asking questions about what do I do. So all of a sudden, if you're trying to put that subject on the teacher and ask them to teach it, it's not going to work out well. They're going to be stressed. They're not going to know what to do. So we had to make sure, one, we didn't encroach on the curriculum, and two, it didn't need to be something that a teacher had to teach. What we want to do in this space is make it asynchronous, but also start delivering those skills to the teacher to let them understand that a lot of this is just guided by conversation. Get the conversation happening, and it's quite easy to have a conversation in the class with kids, even if you don't know about the topic. You've got the world at your hands on the computer, on your phone. So questions come up, the kids ask, you can always refer to the internet and get that information from there.
Great. Thank you so much. And Ben, can you tell us about the app that Squirrel Education has developed and how it works?
Yes, I mean, look, Matt, we really took Matt's concept and put that into a digital environment. We needed to find a way that was going to be less labour intensive for staff, but also be able to impact more children. So essentially, we've created a rewards-based system for the school that also acts as a virtual classroom economy for the children. So the teachers become sort of central banks of their classroom, so they sort of give out squirrel points. The squirrel points are injected into our virtual classroom economy as currency. Children then sort of earn a virtual salary. They've got regular utility bills that they've got to pay. They've got to move money between current accounts, savings accounts, emergency funds. They've got to deal with different types of expenses that get thrown at them, budget for things in the marketplace. And we want to build it out so that it really does cater for anything that children are going to face out in the real world. So investing on investment platforms, buying property, borrowing from the bank, transacting different currencies. Our Google Drive is just stacked with all really cool ideas and how we're going to gamify this and bring this to life for students. So, essentially, it's that concept that Matt had of a reward system for the school, and it ties into things like the house point system. So there is that pastoral element of it, and then we've got the virtual economy that's asynchronous for the children to learn. And again, I think one of the important things that is about Squirrel is that it really is 10 to 15 minutes twice a week. You don't need that 2 hours a week, right? But it's those small touch points. It's that 10 to 15 minutes twice a week, compounded over a 38-week academic year, and hopefully multiple academic years is where we're going to get that behavioural change.
So small, impactful little chunks rather than taking over.
None of us spend 2 hours on our online banking each week. We go on, become very efficient at what we've got to do, and then move on with life. And that's the ethos that we're trying to build into our kids.
I just love that it's connected to the classroom behaviour management, and teachers coming out of their training always looking for something that's really going to support that behaviour management, and then, like you're saying, tied into the school house points. That's really, really brilliant, and I think it's going to make a real impact because kids are seeing they're seeing stuff that's happening in their classroom. It impacts on them personally, but then it's a greater good. They're helping their house, they're helping the school values, build those school values. So that's really, really
very incentivised.
It is, yeah.
And what do you think's the kind of younger stage that we can start teaching basic financial literacy skills to children?
Well, look, there's enough academic evidence that say we start to understand sort of concepts around sort of trade, from as young as sort of 3 years old. By about 7, Cambridge University have come out with a study that shows that we've started off our relationship with money and our perception of money is starting to formalise, right? So it really isn't a too early of a time, right? I think that the earlier that we can open the door for children to learn about personal finance, the better, because I know that in my house rule number 1 was we don't talk about money, right? So the more that we can change that from a young age, I think the better.
Yeah.
So are there some practical ways that parents can support developing financial literacy in the home?
Yeah, I think, like Matt said, I think the first starting point is just to allow your home to be an open conversation and encourage that conversation. And it doesn't have to be like sitting there having a conversation as, like I said, an exam question. I've got $100 and it's going to compound over X amount of years. What is that? How about just asking? if time was a currency, how would you spend it, right? Like, and things
Yeah.
like that. So they start to understand the role that money plays in our lives. And it's just like concepts that are going to be open-ended questions where they can just sort of take it and there's no sort of judgment on it. So that would be my starting point. But then also giving them opportunities to be involved in budgeting or giving them responsibility. You're going on a holiday, right? Okay, well, we need to book a hotel. We need to get an airfare, right? These are activities that we want to do, right? This is the sort of money that we've got. Let's make it happen. Let's put an itinerary together. Things like that gives them actual real life exposure.
And they can start to see what the cost of things are.
Yes.
Like how much is it to have buy milk? How much is it to travel? Do we have the money to travel? Really?
My daughter has left home a couple of years ago, and I found the biggest thing with her was she actually didn't really understand the cost of living, the basic costs of living. And because, we pay for everything, so they haven't been exposed to that on a daily basis and having to manage their own salary and, gosh, Mum, it's so expensive, everything's so expensive. So, and they always had an allowance growing up and what have you, and had to pay for certain things. But Matt, what's your thoughts on allowances, and how can parents start to institute some learnings in the home? Do you have some tips and tricks that you think are good learning tools in the home?
I'm certainly not an expert in this area, but I absolutely do a lot of this stuff with my kids. Now, Ben was just talking about this before. When I lived in Abu Dhabi, at a young age of 8 and 6, my girls we used to send them downstairs to the shop to pick up milk, bread, whatever we needed. It was, you can do that in Abu Dhabi. It's nice and safe. They go down there, we make sure they check the change, they come back. Just little jobs like that get them started. We've got accounts for the girls here. And those accounts, if they want something, then we refer to their account. Have you got the money in your account? Because they've got to understand, we don't actually pay money. I don't pay money for chores. They are a part of the household. Therefore, they need to contribute to the household. And we don't get paid for doing washing and dishes and cooking dinner, so they're not going to get paid either. But I do understand that they're getting to that mature stage. They want to have a little bit of money. But it's also about that. The whole idea of what we're doing with Squirrel is that savings. If you want something, I don't want you coming knocking on my door every 2 seconds saying, well, I want this, I want this, I want this. Go to your bank account. Do you have the money? If you do, you can spend it. It's completely up to you. One of the things that I did, my youngest daughter, she saved and saved and saved, and she actually had enough money to buy an electric scooter. Now, I saw all the savings in her account. I think one of the things that parents can get a little bit too involved in is the spending of that money. We can't actually be too involved in that spending of the money. I don't think they've got to be able to make those mistakes themselves. Yeah. Or if we even might think it's a mistake, but it doesn't end up being a mistake. So my daughter saved up enough money to buy an electric scooter, and we were trying to push her off, saying, well, go and research it, show us what you've got. So she went and researched all the scooters, and we thought time would pull her away from it, but no, she wanted to buy it. She spent all her money, and it's been a great investment for her. She uses it all the time, and we can see the joy that it comes with that. And again, even though it was our thought of saying, you've got all this money, just keep saving, maybe we can invest it for you and you can make a little bit more. That's not up to us. It's their money. They need to make those choices, because later on in life, as you're saying with your own kids, when they leave the home, they've got to start making those choices themselves, and they've got to pit those against other things. So do I have enough money to buy this, or do I have to pay for my car insurance or registration or whatever it is? So I think the most important thing is making sure that your kids are able to make those decisions themselves. Even though you don't agree with it. My oldest daughter, I look at her transaction and it's supermarkets here and Bath and Beyond here, and it's like little bits and pieces, and as much as I'd like to say, you're just wasting your money spending on these tiny little things, that's the choice she makes, because when she wants something big and she can't pay for it, that's when she reflects back and says, okay, maybe I should start saving.
It's a lesson.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Ben, is there any other common mistakes that you find that parents make when they're teaching their kids about money?
No, I think we've covered most of it. Yeah, I think we covered most of it. I think that I think for me, like I said, I only reflect on my experience. Is just that complete and utter sort of shutdown of money, and that like we didn't talk about, we didn't discuss it, we didn't go through it. So, like I said, if parents can just open their house up to that and give those children that real life experience, then I think they're doing a great job.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, it's making them more aware on a daily kind of basis, and maybe not daily, but of daily life expenses and like you were talking about planning the holiday and how much those kind of things cost. And you were right, Matt, when you were talking about, you put your feet on the floor and that's rent or that's a mortgage, and you brush your teeth and your clothes that you wear and you turn the lights on. I mean, everything costs money, so it's so great for them to understand and just have an awareness of life's expenses. And it sounds like Squirrel mimics life, and I think that sounds really great.
Yeah, I mean, that's our intention. Our intention is to build an environment where children can go out into the real world and think, well, how did it play out for us in Squirrel, right? I know what to do, right? So I always talk about, like, Michael Jordan, and Michael Jordan practiced so hard that when he was out on the court, he didn't have to think. And my hope is that children continue to practice quite a lot, as much as possible in Squirrel. So when we're out in the real world, they're not having to think. It's just instinctively. I know that I don't borrow money that I don't have. Like, I don't because I've got experience.
And be confident to have that money and know that they're going to be able to get what they need.
Correct. Yeah.
Amazing.
And Matt, is Squirrel Education available? I know we're talking about it in a school environment, but is that available for parents to use in the home, or is it something that's only available through schools?
At the moment, it's only available through schools. We are moving into connecting with the home, because the way Ben was describing this before, we really want the kids love a bit of a challenge. They love a bit of a competition. So we want to keep that together. And if you're in a home with just one or two kids, then there's plenty of apps out there that teach kids to save. I'm using apps with my kids at the moment that teaches kids to save money. But there's no incentive there. They're not helping their fellow classmates. They're not working towards something. And that's what we want to introduce. So we're going to be connecting the home with the school. So it's that little community. So the parents can help out by rewarding the kids every now and then. And hopefully grandparents can be involved in that, or uncles and aunties can be involved in that. So they're seeing the journey that their child is making, and they can help reward that child along the way as well, whether it's with money or points or opening certain products within the marketplace for them. But it is vitally important that we do connect the home with the platform at school. We just need that conversation going.
Yeah. Well, I think you guys are doing an amazing job. It's revolutionary in bringing this into schools, and teaching our children and giving them those such important skills for their whole lives that they're going to use. And so congratulations on an amazing app that you've brought out.
Thank you so much.
And just lastly, are there any other resources, like if parents are wanting to find out a little bit more about financial literacy for children, is there anything you guys can suggest for parents?
I mean, there's 3 books that I always recommend to, like, I mean, as a person that as a parent to read, just to upskill themselves. And it's the first one is Morgan Housel's Psychology of Money.
Yeah.
Then we've got The Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins. And the third one is escaping me at the minute.
It always happens.
Yeah. I'll have to come back. I'll let Matt know.
That's okay. We'll make sure we include them in the show notes anyway, so that parents can refer back to them. And Matt, any last words from you?
No, look, I don't know if you've heard of the Barefoot Investor in Australia.
Oh, 100%. Yes, read all his books. Amazing.
Absolutely amazing, and he's brought out a few books for kids as well, for kids to start reading if they're interested. So I definitely recommend the Barefoot Investor in terms of getting parents in the know, but also those older students if they need something to read about, then it's a really good book.
Great age-appropriate resource for them to be involved in the process as well. So amazing, fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for joining us today. It's been great, and hopefully we've given some parents some ideas on how to bring financial literacy into the home.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you very much.
And here come the legals. Our podcast is purely brought to you for educational and entertainment purposes. We are just two hectic mums, and we are certainly not licensed therapists.
This podcast is not intended as a substitute for the advice of licensed or qualified professionals. And if you do need some help, please seek out some professional advice.